Let them know, see.
Welcome everyone to another session of Join the Chat. This is the place where every single voice matters, where your opinions are important, where you're empowered to express yourself, and we try to offer a free and open space to speak and also to be heard. I am your moderator, your host for the evening, Renford Mr. Bojangles. What up? I have all of my co-hosts with me this night. It is a great night. It is a great spring night. So we got Joe here. We have Kimmy, Ghislaine, Andre. Unmute yourselves. Say what's up to the people.
Hello, everyone. Thank you.
Hi.
Hello, guys.
Hello, greetings and more sunny.
And don't forget, this is Join the Chat. Make sure you like and subscribe on YouTube at Join the Chat. And then you're able to see all of the videos that we've done previously. And you can play back this one tonight. So if you like what you hear, rewatch it, like, share. This is Join the Chat. So I'm going to get straight into things. We have everyone here tonight. Things are going to get juicy. April 21st, 2021. has gone down as a historic day and a day that everyone is going to remember. It is the day that the verdict came down in the Derek Chauvin case, the state versus Derek Chauvin. We all know he was the officer who caused the death and has been found guilty of causing the death of Mr. George Floyd. So what I want to know is, where were you at when you first heard about this verdict? Tell me where you were. Kimmy, where were you when you heard about this verdict on the 21st?
Where was I? Golly. I feel like I was in Bible study. I think I was in Bible study. And I remember my attention wasn't where it should have been, but I was scrolling through and I was like, okay, found guilty. It is what it is.
Yeah. So Joe, describe to me what went through your mind when you heard about this verdict.
The first time I heard about it is actually I was scrolling through Facebook, and it was a picture of someone I know giving his middle finger at the camera of the guilty verdict. And the first thoughts that came to my mind were like, finally, people were holding people accountable for these things. It's a start it's a small start to a bigger problem. Because these people need to be held accountable for killing people. These police officers are. Yeah, it's a scary time that we live in, and we need to continuously pursue these matters.
Yeah, I agree. Ghislaine, tell me what you were thinking about the verdict when you heard about it.
So first of all, I was actually working from home, and since in the morning I was actually going on Twitter, waiting for the verdict. And when it was delivered and he got actually charged on all the accounts, that was amazing, man. Right? That was I wouldn't say the first shock, but it was like, wow. I think he had 3 charges and then got, charged on all 3. And I'm like, finally, police officers are being are being held accountable for their actions. So I was excited. I was actually excited, but at the same time, I'm like, you know what? I hope, there's a excitement, but at the same time, it's like there's a hope that it won't stop right there. Any police officer across the, the U.S., Canada, whatever they do, they know that the law is applies to them as well. And the other one is that I'm waiting for is I'm waiting for his other officers to be indicted. So that's why it's kind of like, let's move on to them and then let's see how they're gonna be indicted.
What about you, Andre? What were your sentiments when you heard about this verdict, or were you even following the trial?
No, to be honest with you, I wasn't even following the trial, but my YouTube subscribed to a lot of stuff, so I saw it when CNN or one of those ABC media outlet was carrying it, and when I saw it, my initial reaction was just like, yeah, I already know he's gonna find guilty. You know what I mean? In the sense, it's like a movie where you see the beginning, you see the thesis and whatever, and hopefully the conclusion ties in what the thesis was saying. So I pretty much know they were gonna find him guilty, and then a bunch of questions come after, like parole. This doesn't change anything major, really. In a sense, it's just one family. You know what I mean? So it's like right away, reality comes into play to say, well, it's just a scratch of the surface in the sense of making things better.
Did anybody else think that any other verdict could come back other than guilty? Is everyone kind of on the sentiments that he was going to be found guilty? I'll open it up to everyone.
I think I knew he was going to be found guilty, but not on all 3 charges, right? And then when they pronounced it, because I was watching it live, and I see like first charge, I forgot what it was.
So I believe the first charge was 2nd-degree murder. Second charge was 3rd-degree murder, and I believe the 3rd charge was 2nd-degree manslaughter.
Yeah.
That's right. So when I heard that, I was like, wow, okay, this is amazing. And something we have to remember as well, the jury didn't take them a lot of time to actually come back with the verdict, right? And the other thing that I loved was he said he was guilty for all the 3 charges, and then no bail was set. So I was like, you know what, this is amazing. There's justice. So I was shocked for the 3 being guilty of the 3 charges, because I was like, you know what, I won't lie to you. They might actually give him like one. He might be guilty of 1 charges, not all 3. So that was a bait.
Joe, Andre, Kimmy.
For me, I thought that because it was so publicized and so public, that I really didn't think they had any other choice but to find him guilty. I don't think, in the state of mind that people are in right now with the lockdown and everything like that, I don't think people would have been able to handle a not guilty verdict. So I think it's good that he was found guilty. Same time, I'm not sure if the reasons behind it was as genuine, if you will. Like, I know it's the law and stuff like that, but at the same time, I think that that murder being shown all over in our faces over and over and over again, like, people were tuned in, but I didn't hear too much of a buzz of people being tuned into it. Like, it wasn't like OJ, you know? So I'm not too sure if it was the right timing. And to be honest, I still heard of the same things happening in the news like the same day. Like,
Right.
so when you talk about scratch the surface, that's like one out of how many countless. Like, but the streets would have went crazy if he would have gotten off, and I just don't think that people were ready for that.
Hey, so touching on your point then, so do you believe that, I'm going to put this out to everyone again, was he found guilty of these charges on the merits of the case, or was there public pressure? Joe, let me swing it to you. Do you think there was public pressure involved, or did the merits stand and speak for themselves?
Well, I think when you see the video, the merits stand and speak for themselves. Public, the court of public opinion always plays a role in these cases as well. I don't know enough about the jury members to actually comment on that and say they were forced or coerced by the media. But I mean, I think when you see the videos, it's scary. It's scary to think that like people can do this to other people. Like I have friends who have children that are of color, and that scares me. I think like how could you do this? This, like, it's a little boy at some point, you know what I mean, that grows up to be a man, and whether he has mental health issues or he was a drug addict, like, we don't need to be treating people like that. And we have to. I really think the way to make change, because Kimmy said, like, it just happens over and over and over. The way we make real change is that we have to educate ourselves and get into politics and change policy and make sure that the money that's coming in is going to the right places. And we have to make those decisions, not these people who don't give a crap about us.
Well said. Ghislaine, you have any sentiments on that?
I agree with Joe on one point. It's and I've been saying this for years. It's whether when you're a citizen, you have to make sure you vote for a person who's going to change for the policies. We need those laws to be changed, right? So that's all we need to do. But I'm still shocked. I'm still shocked that he got charged guilty on all three charges, because we've seen instances where someone would get only charged for one, like one would get like guilty of one charge, and the rest of the charges will get dropped, right?
Yeah,
But this one,
it's normally the lesser charge too.
the lesser charge, right? But this one, it was all three charges. I think this is very important to think about it. It's and then it's a police officer, right? A former police officer. So I hope, and I keep saying, I hope going forward, whether it's in Minneapolis, whether it's anywhere, California, Texas, there's gonna be some changes, and all the police officers, like, they will know that, hey, it's not like the law is with you. It's actually, if you don't follow the law, you're a regular citizen, you're a regular person, and you have to abide by it, right? So it's a long journey. That's my hope. As Martin Luther King said, I have a dream. So we need to keep doing that. We need to keep, it's a long journey. We need to keep fighting for it. And then always make sure we put the right people who can change policies and the laws and make them accountable. I always say accountability.
Right. We had a comment in here coming from Cheryl Archer, and she was speaking about that she thought the prosecution was awesome, that the witnesses were awesome, but his lawyer was superb in guilting him. So that's an interesting perspective too, coming from that defense side, right? The defense has to debunk everything that the prosecution is trying to bring forward, and it's challenging. So it's great that the verdict came back this way. I was reading some articles. The jury did say that they weren't swayed by the public opinion. But again, Cheryl Archer is saying that, Derek Chauvin should just be called a murderer at this point, right? He's been found guilty
Heck
of
yeah.
murder, third-degree murder, and manslaughter. So the title suits him and fits him to be calling him a murderer. Do you think that's too far to go to be calling him a murderer?
He got charged. It was a murder. It was a murder on TV, on live TV. Not live, but that was a murder, man. Like, there's no other way to mask it. The only thing he was wearing, it's like he was wearing his police uniform, but that was murder.
Right.
I agree with Gizzard on that, man. That was right, straight up murder. And we in the real world, we like to say, until you go in front of the court, you're innocent until proven guilty. So if you're found guilty, it's what it is. There's no sugarcoating, calling ex-cop. Yeah, he can be called ex-cop maybe in his community, but into the general public, that day didn't show any remorse, even though someone was videoing at that time. Because a kill is a kill, a lie is a lie. But it's the way you go about it. You didn't show no sense of remorse. Okay, after 5 minutes, say, okay then, let me get up off this guy. But you're so prideful to say to the point that, you know what, I'm already doing this and it's what I'm doing. If I get up, maybe they're going to say, well, you know it was wrong, that's why I got up. But no, he literally ride it through. So if you were brave enough and bold enough to do that, such an heinous thing, man, it's what it is, brother. You're a murderer, man. That's it. Straight up.
Me personally, I don't know if I'm satisfied yet. I think, some people see this verdict and they're like, oh, yes, we've achieved justice. Justice has been served. But for me, I don't think I'm going to feel more, I guess, satisfied until the trial in August happens for the other three. And then the other three are also found guilty. Because now it's like Chauvin has been labeled as a murderer. But what about all the officers, all the people who are standing by and allowing this stuff to happen? That's not okay.
To be honest, you can look at it from two perspectives, the uniform perspective and from the public perspective. What if it was, say, imagine those cops were off duty that day, yeah? And the police and the Chauvin, was in a private clothes, so to speak. Would the other cops have got involved that time to see someone being vulnerable or someone being for that? You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, is it the uniform that they give solidarity to say, okay, then we're in uniform, I have to ride with him. We don't want this department to look bad or whatever it is. Where was the human concept or the common sense? Where was that at that moment in time? You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, we have to look and say, okay, they are here to serve and protect. But serve and protect us from who? If it was a civilian doing it, would they have got involved? Or just because it was a cop, they didn't get involved? So there's many ways to look at it. So from those perspectives, I think they're just as much as guilty as Chauvin, because as I said, if they were all acting in unison to say we're one, we're officers, then find all of them in the same unison in one then. So whatever Charles Chauvin get, the others get it too. Because he's doing that, but you guys already are protecting him and building a barrier so that people couldn't even touch him also. So you guys just as much as guilty, to be honest with you. And regardless if the other threes are found guilty, I don't think we bring enough form of satisfaction until they see it in law, until they say, okay, then every black person you guys kill, we're going to say that's what the topic is about. Every black person you guys kill, we're going to pay out the same money George Floyd gets, since you guys are a face. To me, it's just a PR work they're doing. And face value, fixing. You can change the structure of the house, but the internal piece is still there. The old pipe is still there, but you know what I mean? Right. So I just think they should say, from now on going forward and even backward, all the guys who were killed by police wrongfully, they should pay them the same payout. All of them, $27 million, and that's a solidarity. Put it in law and also make a payout every time it happens. Millions, not just some thousand or 100,000. No, not to say we're putting a value on a human life, but in the world that we live in, they value money so much. So at the end of the day, why the same people who work hard to pay tax gonna take the money? At the end of the day to pay them back. No, let them get back a fair share of wealth, so to speak, and also they should provide George Floyd family with some financial advisors, because we know people know to blow money. Provide them with that also so that they're set. Don't just give them the money and expect the money going back right into the system. No. Provide them with financial advisors, psycho evaluation, like what do you call the word? Psycho physiotherapy. Yes, like the family need that too, because at the end of the day, yes, they went through it with him death, but now the so-called closure is coming to near. They also need help also mentally to to withstand whatever is to come in the future after this too. So that's just
you mentioned something about closure. I'm gonna bring this over to Joe real quickly. Do you think any closure comes from this scenario, from this situation? Verdict, no verdict, guilty verdict, sentencing?
No, definitely not. I think that where a lot of these situations fuse out is in the sentencing. I want to pull it back to Ghislaine and Andre's point about holding the other police officers accountable. And if you want, let's look at this at the opposite lens for a second. If, let's say disadvantaged youth, regardless of what color, are all together in a situation, and let's say it's us four guys hanging out and we rob a bank and something happens, we're going down as guilty of association regardless of what point we've had in that. So why are we not doing the same thing with our police officers? Because sometimes I'm thinking like, okay, well, maybe let's say Chauvin outranked the other officers and they're just following orders. Well, at the same time, we have to be individuals in those situations and act accordingly to what is correct, as opposed to what is, my rank and order in this position. And, and like that is, we have to, like, we're collectively accountable. Like we're if a fire breaks out and fireman runs up and they don't do their job properly, like everyone is accountable individually, and these officers need to be held accountable individually as well.
Right. No, those are great points. Accountability seems to be a theme that's coming up again and again and again. Accountability for our actions. Just go ahead though.
I was going to say something. It's funny and very sad as well. When you're a nurse, you make a mistake, and you kill somebody, you lose your license, right? If you're a police officer, you murder someone, usually you just get suspended with pay, and the story goes on. Why don't you lose your license? Why don't you get judged, right? But you see, you have a nurse who's saving lives. She might or he might made a mistake, like, unknowingly, that's another story. But they lose their licenses. Actually, they lose their licenses. They can lose their licenses for little things. Like a nurse can.
So, Ghislaine, I don't mean to cut you, but this is my question now, though, because after that incident, I believe all 4 of the officers were fired. So they lost their right to be police officers, and now being found guilty, then at least Chauvin, he's going to jail, right? And then because of his record, I believe when he comes out, he won't be able to apply for a police force again. So hasn't he kind of lost his license or his ability to be an officer?
Yes, for Chauvin, but I'm not talking about Chauvin. We can disregard Chauvin, but we can talk about other police officers who have killed. We can talk about Castillo, who got murdered by a police officer. The police officer got suspended, right? They got police officers who actually killed Breonna Taylor. They got suspended with pay.
Right.
But then they are back at one point they get back, they are put back to the maybe for on duty or just for administration, right? So that is the issue. Sorry, yeah.
No, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
So that is the issue. It's like you have them getting suspended. Why, first of all, don't you suspend them until they get, they're guilty, but suspend them without pay? Because if you suspend, let's say at work, you make a mistake or whatever, you get suspended until they do an investigation with pay. What does it tell you in your mind? You're like, okay, you know what? I'm still getting paid. You lose your life.
It's a vacation for them.
Here we go. It is.
Like I really have to disagree with you here. Like let's say you work at CRA and you make a mistake and they suspend you, you need money to feed your family. And I'm not saying I know if the police officers are right or wrong, but you can't fire me from my job without going through the due process of finding me guilty first before you can take away my pay. There's still human beings that need to be fed. And like, also too, like, you have to think, like, police officers are put in extremely different situations. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're a split second where you have to make a decision, and I'm not talking about obvious situations where the police are in the wrong. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about situations where they're coming at someone who's got a knife or a gun and they kill them. I don't think someone who does that should be held they should be held accountable, but they shouldn't be penalized until their due process, and whatever that due process looks like. And if they decide to fire them, then we cut them off. They don't pay them anymore. But there are times that situations that police fire at people that need to happen. And I think we're talking about that same situation, not like when people are clearly in the wrong.
Good point. Question for you, back to you, Joe. So let's say they get suspended with pay, and then they are found guilty of guilty, right? Do we ask them to pay back the money?
No, because that's the risk we have to take as hiring these people. We police officers who get hired go through a rigorous process, and if that process is broken, we need to fix the process, which we can debate on another part. But I think us as the public, like, you have to continue to pay these people until they're found guilty or not guilty. I believe. I think that goes same thing for public servants, the same thing for firefighters, ambulance drivers, like paramedics. I think it goes through all, like, teachers, the same thing. If the public is paying their wages, I think that we have to at least pay them until we find them guilty.
Okay. Question for y'all, and maybe for Joe and everybody. We're gonna use the same. This is about Chauvin, right? One of the witness actually was a paramedic. She wasn't wearing any uniform. She was just, on the street, and she saw it. And then she told him, "I'm a paramedic. Whatever you're doing right now, having a knee on his neck, he's gonna die, right?" This is a paramedic. I think she even showed them like her license, and she was willing. She was like, "Let me get and help him," right? But they didn't do it. So how do you feel? Still, I understand what you're saying. I agree at one extent. But how do you feel when you hear that story? You have like a paramedic. We talk about paramedic, firefighters, police officers, but you have one who's off duty. She's telling them, "You are killing somebody. I can help you." So at this point, you hear that, and then let's say they've been suspended. We're still, forget about Chauvin, maybe the other 3 officers, right? They're still suspended with pay, and then you hear that story. Don't you feel like if they are found guilty, they should pay back the money? Because they had a paramedic, they had someone who knows. Maybe they didn't know about health, right? But you have someone who knows about health, and is there to tell them, like, "Hey, you are killing somebody. You cannot put."
So Jisley, I think you're talking about 2 different entities, though, right? So there's the action at the scene when the person didn't do certain things, and then there is the investigation that goes into figuring out what the officer's actions were, and then there's a third part where it's the trial. And because he didn't necessarily listen to that paramedic is one of the factors of why he was found guilty. But in the meantime, in between that investigation, Joe's saying that you still have the right to that due process. We have some comments in here as well too. So Rochelle was saying to Joe that you made a good point in terms of the due process, but once the due process is completed and a guilty verdict comes back, then you need to find some way of punishing them where pay is concerned. So that's a great point as well. I think.
Yeah, can I respond to that?
Definitely.
Yeah, so that is a very good point. But let's think of this logically in terms of this the way I think about it. So this person is found guilty, goes to jail, let's say for 15, 20 years. Where are they making the money back? Do you know what I mean? So as a public servant, you're losing your pension, you're losing your pay over the many years, and we're hopefully filling your role with someone better than you were and who can handle the stress better. So going back, and here, there's also a difference too. Like, I agree 100%, but I don't think these court cases shouldn't take 2-3 years where we're paying the cop 2-3 years. There's the difference. I agree with that. If the court case is taking that long, then sorry, you got to find another job, but I think the process should be faster. If we're paying someone 2-3 months or even 6 months, pardon me, while we're doing this, I think that needs to be done in fairness of how many times has the police officers arrested people or accusations happen when they're wrong? Do you know what I mean? And we're ruining people's lives. It's not fair to someone who gets wrongly accused to spend 6 months to 2 years waiting for a court trial as their name is being slandered through the mud, and then they're all of a sudden innocent, and then they get this little blurb in the paper.
I always like to make these things personal. So, Kimmy and Andre, you guys have been quiet for a time being. We're going to get to you in a minute. I'm going to bring it back to Ghislaine real quickly, though. So if you were accused of something in your workplace and you believe that you were innocent, in the time that they were investigating your issue, would you want your employer to pay you pending that investigation? Or would you be okay with getting no pay and then the investigation happens, then it's found that you didn't do anything wrong, and then now how are you going to get that money back? Would you be
Unless they back pay you?
Yeah, there we go. That's what I was going to say. Actually,
would you be okay with receiving no pay pending an investigation of an accusation from your employer? You're okay with that?
I'll be okay with it.
I'm getting right into your pocketbook.
I'll be okay with it. Like, one thing before I answer that question, I have to say something to Joe. I do agree with you that there should be a limitation on for how long they should be paid for. If it's for 6 months, I'm okay with it. Okay? It's kind of like, when you apply for EI, employment insurance, you have a limit, right? But if you're getting paid for like a year and 2 years until, that's an issue. That's the issue we're talking about. Me personally, I'm a police officer, and then, I get suspended without pay. I think
I'm not even saying that you're an officer. I'm saying that your current job that you're in right now, you're accused of something. There's an investigation. You're swearing up and down that you did not do it. You are not guilty of it. And then they have to mount some type of investigation to figure out if you did it or not. Are you okay with not being paid pending that investigation?
I wouldn't be okay because it would hurt my pocket, but I would understand.
You would?
Yes, I would understand. If I'm until I'm proven until it's proven that I'm not guilty, I'm right, and then there's the back pay. Yes, the only issue is, as Joe said earlier, it's gonna impact my my regular life, my family and stuff like that. But
right.
I think we have to, as Andrew said earlier, we have to find a way of hitting them financially, and that has to be, because when you hit someone financially, this is what the world can understand, right? The whole world, it's like once you hit them financially, that's when they wake up and they see it's like, oh, this is serious.
Right. Can I just running fast? I understand what Joe was saying. In a realistic world, he has his kids to feed, them innocent to the whole fact, so obviously you have to still provide. Maybe it's only that's working. But and you have to compare with us. Majority of us work in a corporation or a private company, right? And a private company main focus is to make a profit. Working in the public sector, it's not to maximize profit or anything like that, but to provide human growth, in the sense for the government. So if you work for the government, I think they have in place, like for the private guy, maybe have an EI. Government fund probably have like some insurance thing in place in case someone not working. So maybe they could have put the cap on and say, okay, then you're not going to get your full pay, but you get 3/4 or a half of what you normally get. You have to give him a punishment, because we're not dealing with a kid where we can forgive a kid. If you did love your family, just you would be thinking, okay, if I continue doing this or go through with killing Floyd, my family is there. How am I going to provide for my kid? If we as a private individual think that logical for family every time somebody does something, you think, oh, I have to go home to my wife, I have to go home to my kids, blah, blah, blah. Why weren't you thinking with that 9 minutes to say, yo, I'm about to jeopardize my kids? I'm about to jeopardize my wife. I'm gonna let down my family. So at the end of the day is just like how you're gonna go in courthouse and you hold a criminal, or he come and handcuff a criminal, and a policeman is gonna deal with you based on the crime you do. So if they come over for us, a family dispute with me and my wife, they come and they deal with me normally, try to talk to me. But if they come and you have a gun, they're gonna come in that intention to withdraw the gun from me, right? So it's the same way. We should deal with him in that way to say, okay, then you did an heinous crime. You didn't seem remorse. You didn't seem like you were thinking about your family. Because if you're thinking about your family, you'd automatically think, this guy have a family too. I'm stopping this guy family bread. So who's gonna feed George Floyd family now in the same process? So at the end of the day, let them see that we're actually serious and hold him responsible. Just like I know he may punish his kid. The police guy, Chauvin, may punish his kid for doing something wrong. Let him feel the full force. So either they could give him no pay. He's the one who caused the action. It's not like we go at work and we accidentally went in the boss office without doing something wrong. No. Bro, you took 9 minutes, brother, standing down on someone. People screaming at you and telling, where did the human factor come into play? Are you a beast? So treat you like a beast. Like that's you lay the bed, lay in it, man.
Those are some strong words there, Andre. I guess you were quiet for a while because you had all pent up inside of you, and you finally got a chance to release it and get it out of your system. I love it. We got a lot of comments in the chat. Cheryl Archer again is saying, Joe, she agrees with the due process, but man, Floyd was not allowed that due process, man. An eye for an eye here, bro. You know, Cheryl's flooding up the comments with conversation today. You know, I feel like we need to invite her into this chat at some point. So Kimmy, I'm gonna come to you. As Cheryl's talking about, this should be eye for an eye. Floyd didn't get any due process, but Chauvin does. Do you believe that that's fair? Do you believe that what has happened here in this trial and the outcome is fair?
Well, that's a good question, Bo.
I can turn it over to somebody else if you want. You look like you're studying. I'm not seeing the fabulosity coming out of you right now.
You know why? Because I'm staying edited. I know I'm not supposed to. I'm staying edited because it's a tense time right now, and I don't want to say some shit that's gonna be like, oh shit, you know. So yeah. I don't know. I'm absorbing everybody. I don't want to offend anybody. But that's why
it's honest conversation. We want to hear your view. You have joined the chat. What you have to say is valid. You know, we don't have to agree with you, but it's important.
Well, you know what? If you want me to be honest, okay, I remember I went to Algonquin College and we went and we toured where they have the shooting range, okay? And it was a police officer that was explaining to us, you know, reasonable force and stuff like that, right? And he basically said, listen, if I feel threatened by you, I could take you out. You know what I mean? Like depending on the situation and stuff like that. So like there's a level of perceived threat. Now, if you want to go a little bit deeper, it's clear that people of color are seen as a threat to mainstream, you know, people and people of authority. There's something about us. Even if we're walking down the street sometimes, some of them be like, I find that since COVID has happened, it's exploded even more. Like, hey man, I'm all about the love, but some people, there's something about Black people that it's so ingrained in society. And I'm not making an excuse, but it's the truth. There's something more threatening for some reason about Andre than about Joe, right? Like if them two was walking and they would see Andre as more of a threat. Now, fairness when it comes to
let me backtrack real quick. Who is they?
Society as a whole, the system, man.
Are we talking about in every neighborhood though? Are there certain neighborhoods that Joe might be looked at as more of a threat than Andre? If you're in certain different demographics, certain areas?
Well, it depends on what you're being threatened by. You know what I mean? Joe, you might see Joe in a neighborhood and be like, is that CAS? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is that the tax man coming?
Yeah.
I'll be like, what's he doing over here? Is he, low-key trying to cop something? But I think that there's more of a perceived threat of violence or harm. And that can be attributed to years and years and years of brainwashing people, even Black people. Like, we're brainwashed too. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Fairness, meh, I don't know. Because it's so much deeper. You know what I mean? And I'm not trying to play devil's advocate. However, I have worked in places where there is authority, where some people are abusing their authority and they don't even know it. Sometimes you witness trauma and you don't even know how to react. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not trying to excuse any of them gentlemen. I'm just looking from another perspective. Sometimes, like, you see something and you're shocked. Like, does that mean that your heart's not in the right place? I don't know. So many layers to the layered cake.
I got you. It's funny that you were talking about fairness and you were talking about rules. So, like, I pulled up some definitions for just the word fair. I don't want to stay on the Chauvin thing. We're gonna go into other topics, but with the same concepts of fair. But one of the things, definition for fair is conforming to the established rules, right? So, are those rules even made fairly? Like, who is creating these rules? Joe, let me come to you. We were beating up on you a little bit a second ago. So, conforming to rules. It's fair to conform to the rules, but who is implementing these rules? Can you tell me your concept of what fair is? Give me your definitions, or what fairness means to you.
I'd say fairness is just equal opportunities for people, but they don't really exist. It's a belief that we have as humans that society beats on us that we're supposed to be fair, but it's not fair. Everyone grows up in different situations that they have to get through. It's really about how can you process information, and the better that you process information, you make better decisions. And people have to put themselves in situations where they're learning more to get them out of these situations. We live in a society of constructs, that force us to do certain things, like get up, spend 12 years of your life going to school with people you probably don't really like, and then you should probably go to school to get a degree because that's what we say is the right thing to do. You should also get married right away and have kids, and then try to pay off that $80,000 debt, and then and you should also pay $2,000 a month for daycare because that's really fun and cheap.
But those aren't rules. Are those rules though? Are those
Sure.
rules you have to abide by, or are those quote unquote societal norms, or are these things that are just pushed upon us to do? But there's not a rule for you. You don't have to go to college. You don't have to get married. You don't have to have children. You don't have to buy your house. You don't have to do any of those things.
You're starting on the back end of that comment. Start on the front end. The 12 years of school that we and daycare and all these things that we're supposed to do. I mean, my kids are in school; they're not homeschooled, but these are societal norms that you're right. I agree with you. They're not forced upon you. They're societal norms. But if we look at the way the government is acting right now, forced vaccinations, so you have to travel, forced things that you have to go to school. All these social constructs are moving us to, or pushing us into a certain hole that we have to confide to. To me, COVID is just a big divider. Like, now it's not about dividing people about races, it's dividing about, are you wearing a mask or are you not wearing a mask? And to me, it doesn't matter which side are you on. Like, if you want to wear a mask when we hang out and I don't, like, who cares? Like, I don't care. I'll respect you. I'll wear it even though I don't want to. But like, we just really have to. I don't know. I'm getting a little off topic here. Sorry, back to you.
That was good. That was good. You're kind of talking about the institutional powers. So just on swinging over to you as well. Do you think the institutions have too much power or too much influence in how we do our things? That's question A. And then B, are the rules and the regulations that they are putting on us, do you believe that they are fair?
Those are great questions. Institutions, they have great powers, but at the same time, we have to remember those people who are in the institutions are people who we voted for or we didn't vote for, but they are human. And I think there are times where they have to take some decisions that are not fair to everybody that we don't agree with, right? Depending on the situation. So we can come back on COVID, for example, because we live in COVID. Sometimes, I might not like the decision. For example, like I live in Gatineau and there's a curfew at 8 p.m. I'm like, why do we have a curfew at 8 p.m., right? Last time they did extend it to 9:30 p.m. I'm like, what's the purpose, right? I'm from Africa. I lived in a country where during war there was curfew, and I understood why there was curfew because at that time anybody in the street could get shot, right? But now I'm living this in curfew time. I'm like, is it fair? No, it's not fair. Do I understand if I was in their position? Because we have some we have to understand like this is a new thing that was never written in the history books. You're fighting against, right? So do I agree with the institutions? They have a lot of power, but sometimes they have to, I would say, push the society to go where it's not like where they want, but where they think they are. It's the right way. What was the
Andre,
Sorry, go on.
no, that's good. I'm going to swing it to Andre real quickly. Andre, is there a barometer? Is there a measuring stick to when society or the institutions who are in power are doing more good versus bad? Like, can we measure what they're telling us to do? And if it doesn't make any sense, if it's not good, are we able to, I guess, revolt or not listen to it? And if it's good, should we abide?
Yeah. Boy, that's such a broad question with fairness. I was more looking to the word equality, which pretty much is the same. And it tried to say that we are all equally made, and some say we all should be given the same opportunities and stuff. And then they can look at equality or fairness from a political standpoint, so some people have a right to vote. And then they look upon it from a gender perspective, say man and woman if you have right. So you see how fear big, them try to dissect it into different things. So to be honest with you, if you're looking from a political standpoint, when you say institution, their way of dealing with fairness is different than probably the pastor man look at fairness. You understand what I mean? So there's so many different sectors to it so far as to break it down. It's so broad. But at the same time, I want to look on it this way to say, okay then, with certain institution in place, everyone is not going to get the same opportunities. Some of the opportunities are geographically based. If you live in the city, you probably get a chance of getting certain job. You're in Ottawa, you get the government job, the same, right? So it's based off geographic. So probably what some institution may have in place beneficial to people living in Ottawa, or people living in Kingston, or people living in Washington, D.C. versus a person living outside of those areas. So it may benefit, it may seem good here, but somewhere else it may seem as bad. So it has a lot to do with perception. And to be honest with you, with the whole fairness thing is, sometimes I like to ask the question to myself to like, am I fair to even myself sometime? I may say I want to do this 5 o'clock and 5 o'clock I end up doing something else. But yet still, when someone don't live up to their expectation, we hold them so dearly to it like, oh, Joe, imagine you promised me at 5, but you didn't come through. You feel me? But yet still you're not that hard. You're not that hard on your own self. You know what I mean? So if to be honest, fairness, again, every week I come, I say the same thing. It's based on an individual again, because again, as Joe say, a person decided to go to college for 12 years. You could have gone to college too for the 12 years too. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, is what you do with that opportunity.
I'll just stick a pin there. So Joe's saying the first 12 years of schooling have nothing to do with choice. That's from, junior kindergarten to grade 11, grade 12, high school. And then you get to choose after if you want to go to college or university.
But hold on though, in the first institution that we, like outside of family, but from school, a lot of us are kind of directed into where we're going. So if
Right.
you're achieving them high A's and you're a high achiever, they'll, you know what I mean? Oh, you know, you're special and woo woo woo, and you might, and it follows you throughout the whole institution of school,
Oh my God,
right?
Kimmy.
So
Yeah,
we're coming right back. We're coming
What
right
Kimmy?
back to the institutions, right? So if the
What?
Kimmy.
What is it, Andre? What is it?
No, we say right because that me that get that too. For sure, say you have a choice, and that's how they create classism. Because to be honest, sometimes we look
Right.
at fairness and think it's a race thing alone where white people have the privilege, but what do people living in Jamaica? They're not like being oppressed by a white, so to speak. Yeah, we're not gonna get into depth detail now about the World Bank and all this thing. In African countries, black people overpowering them. So what problem do you have? Racist problem? No.
Yes.
Classism. So
There's
classism
still
is not that.
racist problems there too, though.
No, you're gonna say racist, but it's more classism because racists tend to deal with color people and maybe a Indian man, which still too is a black man, whatever it is. But we not say racism where it's have to do with race or whatever. In Jamaica, you probably look on it, you see a black man, your prime minister is black, your minister of finance is black, your minister of health is black, the sports personnel, your principal of your school is black, your pastor is black, African countries, same, right? But yet still they have this classism created the same way created in America, meaning if you're getting A's, oh, Renford is going to be the future doctor. Renford, why? Because that curriculum that they set in place to feed you, and if you do well in that curriculum, okay, then since you pass my curriculum, you're going to be the next lawyer, you're going to be the next. But who knows? I've seen kids where do well at primary school and probably something turn them around. Even high school, they can probably make a conscious effort. So, you know, at grade 11, I'm going to do this. But yet still no, before that, they were stereotyping and putting label beside them. Renford didn't do it ready in grade 9, so it's guaranteed it's going to go that way. Maybe in the music industry or whatever, they start to put you in different direction. If you go university, same classism again. Because I'm studying liberal arts, oh, he's going to be one of those one who spread propagandas. You know what? Let's go meet someone from the science department. Why? Because the science kids are more focused on to be a doctor. So the whole thing sometimes about fairness, the doctor man work just as hard as all the laborer work, but they get different rewards. You know what I mean? So you can't measure fairness, to be honest. There's no way to measure fairness. But I just think that we're all made, I wouldn't say equally because some people have one hand, again, right? And some born deformed, whatever it is. But we are all made equally as humans. You can respect the person's life. To say, you know what? Oh, I can show this person I respect him. Preserve that person's life. I won't do anything to offend Renford. Likewise, Renford don't do anything to offend me. Keep it simple. It's not to say, okay, then we all have a right to go make $100,000. No, if that person don't put that effort, why are you going to give him $100,000? But if you see that person going down a way to say, okay, I know if he touch the wire, he's going to get electrocuted, you stop that person because why? You value life. So once you value life, then you can say, okay, we're all equal in that sense. But the things that we ascertain, the opportunities, is how we position ourselves and the environment we're born in, regardless of how it come about. So I don't believe I should expect the government to take care of me or present the opportunity that I need and come with this expectation and say the government need to do this. If that one don't come, we vote them out. Because first and foremost, if the government is representing us, why we don't hold them accountable? Why we don't say, you know what?
So that's what I was asking again in the beginning. So if the institutions that are in power are implementing certain rules on us,
yeah,
is there a measuring stick? Are we able to look at what they're doing? And if it's not in our best interest, do we have the right not to adopt it?
Yeah, we have a right, definitely not to. Why you don't go fix yourself? Why the government fix you? Try and fix you then.
So that's my question, and this is to everybody. So how do we measure it? So I'm just going to come with SCB right here because SCB has a comment similar. It's not exactly on topic, but SCB is in our comments here, and she's saying most of the COVID-related rules make no sense. Yet these institutions instill fear in us so that we have to conform whether or not we think the rules are fair or sensible. So is there a measuring stick, right? Like, are we able to really assess what are these rules and regulations that government are putting on us? Do they make sense? Does something like that exist?
Yeah, it can be measured based on the peoples. So if they are representing 10,000 or 1 million people, is what the majority says they feel like when they go in the street. I'm not talking now what the media or the representative of the government or institution tell us based on our statistics. No, is what you feel when you go out there in the public and say, okay, then my neighbor said they feel as if. Go ahead.
But now, what would you say when everyone feels something different? If I go on my block right now and I ask 10 of my neighbors about just specific pandemic that we're in, I'm going to get, for sure, 7 different perspectives.
Yeah,
So
you get 7 different perspectives.
Where's the commonality in measuring what's good and what's not if we all have different perspectives and vantage points?
Well, from an institution standpoint, I'm saying no. You're asking what the measuring stick is. So the measuring stick can be done from their perspective. Meaning, so I'm just using a quick example. When the IMF come to lend you money, the IMF is giving you that loan. You win for the ask for the loan, and they're telling you, Renford, you know what? Based on our study and our analysis, it's best if you put the money in this sector of your life. And you're like, no, I came to do my house. I don't want to go buy a car. But Renford, if you get a car, you can pay us back quicker. That's them to you, and they're the one giving you the probabilities of paying back and blah blah blah. With the government, if they're the same one who is using for example, they are making the laws, they are doing the programs that they do to help the community, so to speak, and they are the same one who is being the judge of their own work. If you're gonna be the judge of your own work, you're gonna say this, but the measuring stick have to come from the public, because at the end of the day, you're a public figure. Politics is a public thing. So if the masses, so when I say masses, we're not talking about some people who leeway to certain things, meaning the government is there to provide basic necessities to help. Food, shelter, clothing, them little stuff that can help in areas like that. The basic needs and education. Meaning now, so if they come with a program to say, okay, then we're gonna provide free education. But when they come back and say, it's causing a strain on the economy because we have to pay this, versus the public come and say, my daughter got the opportunity to go to someone from a remote area, got the opportunity to go to a tertiary education, and she's a doctor now. So when you hear that talk, you can say, oh, the goal and the objective was achieved because someone was able. But versus the government saying it's not beneficial because they're spending money at the end of the day. You understand what I mean? So at the end of the day, I think if the masses...
I get you.
That should be the measuring tool.
So I think this goes back. I think Joe was making a point earlier where saying that we have to get involved in politics in order to change the policy, right? So we have to educate ourselves first on what's going on in society. We have to get involved in these institutions. And then once we're on the inside, we can bring our perspectives to that table and effectively change policy. Cheryl Archer is in here, and she's talking. Cheryl Archer's killing it tonight. Cheryl Archer, you need to give us the information so we can reach out to you so you can join the chat. But she is talking about the measuring stick being equity. And I'm very happy that she brought up that point of equity. I remember reading or watching this little cartoon, and there's 3 individuals. They were trying to look over a fence. Everybody was given 1 crate. Right? So that was equality, right? Everyone gets the same thing. But based on the needs of each individual, one person was very tall. He could stand up and look over the fence without needing a crate. Another person was really short. So he needed 2 crates. Another person was medium sized. He needed 1 crate. So we still had the same 3 crates, and it was divvied up based on needs. What are you showing me, Joe?
It's the crate.
Thank you, Joe. I like that. Yes, that one.
Yeah, show it up again, Joe. Show it up again, Joe. Yo, this wasn't planned, but this is great. It makes our team look like, so this is the exact same theory here, right? So it's the equality is on the left side where you have everyone has 1 crate. Equity is on the other side. So everybody needs different things. Cheryl Archer is talking about we need equity to solve some of these issues. Do you believe equity is what we need? Tell me what you believe equity might look like or what equity is. Ghislaine's been quiet. Joel's been quiet. Kimmy's been, I guess everybody's been quiet except for Andre, because Andre took their last second. So talk to me about equity, y'all.
Joe, you can go first.
My question back to you is where does it start? You're right, we do need equity, but where does that start? and then I think about education, and it kind of bring it back to what Kimmy was saying, is that we're filtering people into these jobs. If you have a good memory in high school, that means you'll probably do good in university, which makes you a not a police officer, a doctor or a lawyer or all these other things. And the thing is we're training people to be obedient, and fall into these categories, and we have to think of how different people's lives are who follow these molds, and I'm one of them. You know what I mean? Like, I went to school, I went to college, I went to university, I found a 9-to-5 job, hated it, and then it took me, I just turned 40. It took me almost 20 years after graduating to find something I'm truly passionate about. But that's not what I was taught this whole time. I was bringing on debt and taking these things, which takes me out of working physically to make the world a better place, because I'm stuck in my own mind of keeping up with the Joneses. You know what I mean? I need to have that house. I need to have that car. I need to have this. I need to have a kid, wife, blah, 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 big wedding. All these little things that keep us stuck. But that's where it starts. We need to break out of that, and we got to stop judging each other when we see someone. Oh, why are you driving a 2010 Nissan Murano? That's my car, actually, just for the reference. And we like, these conversations are extremely important, but where do we go from here? We have to start thinking about politics. Like, to me, like, if I'm running for Prime Minister of Canada, everyone who's voting should walk up to a computer with their face and say, Joe Doherty, I vote for Joe Doherty. And there's no cheating that. Do you know what I mean? Throw that on the blockchain technology, there's no lie. Not like, you 4 vote for me and that counts as my Ottawa South group of voting. That's like, it's 1-for-1 votes. Let's be very clear. And when you look at that, like, that's how Donald Trump got voted in from the electoral process. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. And I'm not saying he's good or bad president. I'm just saying, like, any president, the ruler of a country, should not be voted in by, or should be voted in by, the mass majority of people that you want running this. So I'll see you in office in 10 years. I'll do the show. I'll run the PMO office, and then we'll come back to the show.
This is Joe Doherty, and he approves this message.
With equity, I look on it sometimes like who again? Plato? No, not yeah. I think Plato or one of them guys who basically say, well, based on your position or based on your, like, the tall person didn't need a crate because he's already tall, so he can stand up and look over, right? But the same thing going to show that my family is well off. My dad is a wealthy guy, and if I should go to the courthouse, I should kind of get automatically preferential treatment because of my parents, because of where I was born. And so may look on it and say, well, that's unfair. But that's what equity is. So sometimes we ask the things we don't even know what we're asking for. So if the person's from this community, he shouldn't get that opportunity because he should come from there. So let him stay there. So versus that person. I'm saying that because the tall guy, you didn't give him a crate. Why not? Everybody got one. Oh, he's tall enough.
Yeah. But that's what equity is about, though, right? Equity is about what people need, as opposed to just trying to make everything equal, right? So the tall gentleman doesn't need the crate in order to see over the fence. Therefore, I don't need to give him one. Yet the person who is the shortest needs 2, not even 1, but they need 2.
But we're gonna say that's inequality. It wasn't fair. If you should ask an innocent baby, that's with the equity you're saying that give based on the need. It's gonna come back to say it wasn't fair because the innocent kid will be like, oh, why didn't he get a chair? That's an innocent mind thinking. Everyone get one, so give him one. No, baby, based off his needs, he need that. Just saying, some people will counter it and say that, well, because I'm well off and I can afford the money to pay such and such. It's a loophole in the system. It's not. I wasn't the one who created the loophole. Sorry, sir. That's what they're gonna. That's what it's just gonna happen, So
that's a very fair point. So I'm gonna throw this again to Kimmy and Ghislaine. So, in terms of equality or equity, which one is more desired?
I think a lot of people want equality, because I find that a lot of people, they're all about themselves. They ain't willing to give up that last little piece. Or, me personally, if it was up to me and if I had the funds to make it, I'd get a whole bunch of people that I love and say, listen, fuck all this shit. Let's go live off, what is it called? Off grid.
The grid.
And you know what I mean? Let's learn to grow from the roots and all this. Everybody I talk to, like, nah, bruh, no, it's okay. I need my grocery stores. I need my this. I need my that. So a lot of people, they don't really want to give up where they're at. Like, it's easy for us to point at the big corporations and they should be taxed and they and stuff like that. But guess what? We're really rich to some people that ain't got shit, right? Why is it that the extra rich people are up there? Because that's how society is set up. We're not ever going to be equal. It doesn't make no sense. You know what I mean? It would be nice in a perfect world, but nah, man. Mm-mm. We want the equality, but we ain't really trying to deal with the equity. I don't think.
Just like touch it. Touch it, just like.
In order to get to equity, we need to start with equality, right? Because even if you check the definition of equality, it says it's the states of being equal, and the other one is actually the quality of being. So we need, first of all, let's talk about equality, right? Let's get to that state of being, of making sure everybody's equal. Like, it's a long journey. I keep saying that. And then we can get to the state, to the point of being, to the equity. But I think both of them goes hand in hand, right? But we need equality first, to get to equity. Hey, we live in many in societies where they don't believe. Some societies don't believe in equalities. It could be based on race, it could be based on religion, it could be based on class. Right? But I think equality is needed first, and then we get to equity. When we talk about they go hands to hand. I want to go back a little bit, Brian, if you allow me to rewind a little bit. You asked about what is the state measure we can use, right? Earlier, and I think, sorry?
Yeah, for the institutions to know if
the
rules that they're putting in place are good, beneficial or not.
Yeah, I wanted to make two comments here. I wanted to say one is we can use history, the past, as a measuring stick, right? Depending on the situation you are in. For example, like a few years ago, there was a financial crisis. Many countries have been through financial crises, and you can use history. What was in the past, how to deal with it. And there's also, we're talking about COVID, and I love how we're in Canada and different provinces, they have their own rules. Not rules by the way they approach COVID, right? For example, like in Quebec, let me go back to Quebec. The bringing the curfew is because they saw what France doing the same, UK doing the same. However, you have in Ontario where they don't believe, the institution like Ford and his government, they don't believe in curfews. So they didn't instill that, right? So I think the other measuring stick could be your neighbor. You can check your neighbors and say, hey, is my neighbor actually implementing this, and are they successful? If they are successful, then you can use it as a measuring stick and say, hey, I'm going to do that. Another thing that I wanted to go back, sorry, to rewind this. I think institutions have powers, but they are limited because people have the most power. I'm gonna use two examples. People will have power to vote. Right now, there are a lot of people who are frustrated with Doug Ford in Ontario. There are a lot of people who are frustrated with what's his name, François Legault in Quebec. Guess what? Their frustration, they're gonna actually put in the voting booth next election, right? Where there's some people are saying like, hey, you might not see those parties again in the next few years once the vote gets in, right? There's also a power to riot. I keep using an example of Netherlands. Netherlands lately, I think a few months ago, they wanted to put a curfew in it. The whole country, they riot, right? And it was canceled. We can go back centuries ago when the French Revolution, when people were like, you know what, we've had enough with the royalty. We want to get rid of the royalty. We want to have our own president, and they all rioted, right? And they're like, you know what, enough of the fear, but we have power as unity, right?
So
I
what
think the most powerful.
I'm hearing you say, Ghislaine, that the people have the power.
Here we go.
So everyone, tell me, do the
Yeah.
people exercise the power that they have?
No. No, brother.
I've got the power.
Andre, what happened to your face, man?
Huh?
What
Because
you smelling, man? What happened to your face?
man, I smell it, the madness. As humans, we can't really look and realize that we literally have the power, like really, really, really have it. But yet still it just go aside because again, you know what? If you want good, your nose have to run. Or if you want good, you have to suck salt through wooden spoon. All them look at something, the brother, and calm we down. Like it offend me, you know what I mean? Because at the end, as to my thinking, you can get up and make the world what we really want it to be. But again, you can't expect a neighbor to fix a neighbor because you can only fix yourself. But if you fix yourself and try to again maximize your true potential, the world will eventually be good. I'm not gonna say perfect because there's no such thing as perfect, and life need a balance. So you need the unruly one them along with it. But guess what? At the end of the day, good will overcome the negativity. Because what Ghislaine said earlier with Netherlands people doing that, for example, like look at it for honest. If for 1 year you can allow a country or the world to use COVID as an excuse for lock us up inside or restrict you. What you're telling to them is basically, okay, we can use something like serious like this to trick the world and lock them up in them house. Yeah, nobody would be willing to say in unison to say, okay, then let us protest against this and see what happens. Because at the end of the day, taking the vaccine, people still catch the COVID thing. Taking the vaccine, people dead from the vaccine. Taking the vaccine within 18 months, you don't even know the side effects, but yet still some people tell us straight up, well, man, it's best if me take it. It's like you're really thinking. It's basically you saying, put a gun in your daughter head and play the Russian roulette. You wouldn't do that. Why not? Just take a risk. Maybe 1 in 6, you know? But yet, see, we give up. Yeah?
That was a very vivid
Yeah.
image in my
But
mind
yes,
right
so majority of us we won't get up to say, okay, let's go join the protest for real and stand up. We're not gonna fight anyone. I'm not saying destroy places or burn down places. No, that's not what you do with some. You just go out and you just stand up and you don't need to talk. Action speak louder than word. Don't need to negotiate. There's nothing to negotiate. You know why the people are upset. We don't want to wear any masks. Stop this vaccine thing. Stop this propaganda. Because if the vaccine doesn't stop you from getting it, what the point? Make people find them own home cure remedy. If you can come and say every morning I do my steaming, because if it have to do with the lungs and all of that, I do my daily steaming, guys. Sorry, and I don't feel any side effect. I've been tested multiple times, brother, because I'm working at the home care. And you know what's funny enough? The lady at the home care said there haven't been one person who been tested positive coming there. And it's like, but the news will tell you they do their daily testing, this amount of people. And Renford have been working this place from February. And they have to go there, the homes, retirement home, yeah, have to be the quick test. And they haven't got one test positive. So it's funny and it's mind-boggling that we literally allow these people to take over our rights. And because of, I don't even want to use the word fear, because it's not like a fear of the government. It's your neighbor you worry about going to snitch on you and people going to call people and say, this person not practicing, I'm afraid of fine. They're going to fine us. No, man, like, we're tired of people literally make people suppress us, you know?
I get you. Andre, I got 2 comments in here for you, man. I have Sherelle Archer saying that she's going to give all of us a size 5 shoe because it's equal, right? But then, but you know, so she's busting your chops. But, you know, then SEB just said that, you know, she agrees with you, Andre, and Kimmy said it earlier as well. Everybody wants better, but very few people, no one is willing to put in the work to actually do better. So it comes
Can
back
I?
to what you preach about, Andre, and it's self-identification, self-education, knowledge of oneself, becoming better individuals. Ghislaine, you got something to say? Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, sorry, Joe and Kimmy, if you wanted to say. I want to say, I want to go back to a comment Kimmy said, and Essie just said it, right? I'm going to use an example of South Africa. There was apartheid, right? Apartheid, and Mandela, he got elected, right? He got released from prison, he got elected. He was the first black president in South Africa. They had been fighting for equality. When I say they, black people, the owners of the land, they had been fighting for that equality. It wasn't like, even before they thought about like equity, it was about let's get to a point where you actually see me as a human, as a person who's black, who is Indian, because there's some Indian mulattoes that were equal to the white colonizer, right? They fought, they got to a point where Mandela got elected. That is the power I was talking about, power of people. But it was a long journey, it was a fight. But do you think once they got to equality, it changed overnight? No. It took decades, because the issue is with equity. It's not like everybody's not willing to do it. The issue is who has equities actually, who owns the land at that point. You know, at that point it was still like, white people who were still like, who were owning a lot of the lands, right? But it was, they had to start with equality first to get to equity, where they can actually put people and say, hey, we can actually now you have accepted me as you know with my race, as being a black person, you have accepted it as a human. Now I can vote actually for an MP who can actually change the law, who can actually redistribute the the equity, right? So I think it's like we have to get to equality first, then get to equity. But to get to equity, we can even forget about racism, right? We've seen so many, when you read articles, even when you go to work, if you work for a private company, tell me how many boards are actually run by women. You barely have any, right? That's another equity, right? So I think you have to go to the equality. But once you get to equality, I do agree. Some people they're like, oh, you know what, my state, my class has been accepted. I'm good with this. But to get to equity, you also still have to fight for it, and try to find a way to have those people who have more equity to distribute it with and that's where I keep saying, and Joe said it from the beginning, we need to vote, guys. We need to vote. It's not even like, I'm not talking about you, us guys, but it's people who are listening to us. It right now we're 2021. We keep talking about votes. In 2022, let's say we go to voting and everything is nice and shiny. Some people would say, I don't want to vote, but hey, go back to this video and remember, votes count. I'm done.
This is Ghislaine's message. She is also running for office.
By the way, sorry, I have a question for Joe.
Yes.
I'm willing to vote for you, but what is the ministry gonna give me? I need to know.
We need equity here. What are we gonna get out of this?
That is equity we need.
you get 2 crates.
Okay.
Oh.
So
to be honest,
Sorry.
I think it's more than vote. Like we need to empower our youth to get into politics, who are from the communities that need to be who are affected. It's not about just getting out to vote, because when you're voting for some old white man that does not relate to you and doesn't have your best interests in mind, it doesn't matter who you're voting for, or anyone, it doesn't matter what color or gender they are or non-gender they are. They have to represent what you and your community needs. And if we're not pushing those people into these positions, we need doctors, lawyers, and medical professionals from these communities. It's not white people, it's not just black people, it's not Asians, it's anyone who's grew up in these types of situations, understand the hardships that these people have gone through. So when you're making policies and you're making decisions, we do have what's best for everyone in mind, and not just, you know, corporations or people who funded my campaign when I'm running for prime minister in 10 years.
You know,
That's
again, I
what.
think Joe hit it again, you know, and Andre, it keeps coming back to you. We have to be self-motivated. We have to be self-reflective. We have to have a vested interest in in ourselves first, and then our families and our communities, in order for those communities to get better, in order to know what those communities want, and then we can bring it to the policymakers or whatever, you know. But we have to start on the ground level.
Or you can look at it. You see, Rainford, like we always play a sport. Just imagine when we go on the field to play the game, we're actually in the fourth quarter in the last minute of the game. Like that's how the game gonna start. In the fourth quarter, scores are even with 1 minute on the clock. No, you have to go through the process, because remember, fatigue is a part of it, or you endure. Because maybe if you started the game from first quarter, you get fatigue, and it show your character at the end of the fourth quarter that time. Longevity, endurance, as Gislin say, you have to fight for it. You know, it take a long time. So if you go in the game right away, say, oh, fourth quarter, let me go into the game like ready to ball. And trust me, Kevin Durant would have a hard time beating a Pascal Siakam for starting in the first car. What? He might get in the groove, fire up.
Whoa.
Yeah, we said that. Some people need time to warm up.
You know? Talk about my KD like that, man.
No, KD are the man. No.
We like the Raptors, but come on, man.
Watch it.
KD's in load management, man. He can come in on the court.
KD is the man. No, what the point of the matter I was trying to get at is the fact that Pascal will be coming in the game at that fresh. He can exert as much energy at that time in a minute in a shorter frame of game. KD might be a sniper, but at the same time, sometimes it takes to get into a groove. And the advantage you have in the regular game is over the course of 48 minutes, he's gonna outball you because he's strong that way. But if it is just a short middle playing for 1 minute, maybe I can beat a Renford, but over a period of time. So that's what I'm trying to say is in life, nothing will come easy. You have to go in the mud, you have to endure, you have to be persistent in whatever it is you want. So it's like a chain reaction. So you can't just go to the fourth quarter. You have to fix you, your family, then you go to the community, then you go to the nation. You understand what I mean? So it's steps. I'm not saying you can't jump the gun. So we can't expect the world to be better when you individually haven't been fixed. You know what I mean? That's the point I'm trying to get at. So is this a process? You have to fix you first, then that whole equal thing and stuff will come in, because we're all born and we're all born equal in the Most High. You know what I mean? So that's the thing. But after that day, maybe you come to a different family, an opulent family, that family, you start to get the benefit of being in that part of the family. But we're all born equal, but you have to go through the process. Fix you first in all aspects, whether it be mentally, physically, socio-economic, whatever thing you want to do, you can set it up yourself that way. And the equality, all that thing will come. Just trust yourself, man. Better yourself versus politician.
Real talk. So I'm going to finish with this last comment, and then we'll do a final wrap up. But SEB, it says, yes, I agree with Joe. People need to stop thinking just because a black man, a woman, etc., whatever demographic we were speaking about, regardless of who's in office, it doesn't mean that everything's going to be fair. Black Lives Matter was created when a black man was in office, right? So with the final point, we're talking about fairness, being fair, being equal, being equitable. So my last kind of comment that I would like everyone to touch upon is that in the wake of things not being fair, not being equal, not being equitable, what are the ways that you personally use to persevere amidst those circumstances so that you're able to achieve your dreams? Kimmy, I'm gonna start with you.
Well, I'm going to be 40 coming up in January, God willing. And it took me this long to get the memo that I was a mess and that I needed to change, right? I definitely, you know what? I love people. I love society, but I think that they're a mess in a big way. And so it's hard to kind of balance where I'm thinking all about myself and wanting to serve other people, because you know, I served people for a long time and I got burnt out, right? So now it's like, okay, it's more about Kimmy and take care of me. But my bigger plan of everything that I'm doing while taking care of myself is to serve and to try to help this fucked up world, man. We're fucked. And we need as much help as we can get. Pardon my language. And so, regardless of the madness, that's why sometimes I got to turn off the news because I get so discouraged because I'm like, oh my God, you know, there's too much going on. Let me zen. Let me do a little guided meditation. Let me bring it down. You know what I mean? And take it easy because the news and the media will poison you anyway. Excuse me. So I'm looking at the bigger picture, but I recognize that there is, you know, stuff within me that I have been conditioned in society to become. I'm happy I got the memo that there's more to this life than what I was living. And I'm going to stay positive and hopeful that the more I work on me, the more I can make some changes. But change gonna come.
Amen.
Change gonna come. Ghislaine, to you. Things aren't going to be always fair. They're not always going to be equal. They're not always going to be equitable. How do you continue to persevere to achieve your goals?
One of the things that I do is always remind myself this is a marathon. You know, it's a long journey. This is not a sprint. We're not running like Usain Bolt, but you know, it's a long journey. So, and um, and I think like earlier, Andre was talking about sports. You know, sometimes when you're getting bait when you're a team and you get that small victory, you still have to take it, man. Because that little small victory can like be scoring like 3 points when you didn't think you could score that 3 points. So I take that, you know, I take that 3 point. I'm like, okay, you know what? I can get back up and still run, right? Um, there is one point that Kimmy touched as well is, you know, sometimes you have to disassociate yourself from the news. Or I'm going to go even further. It could be on social media as well. It's, you know, you have to find your time during the season as well, your season, find a time to yourself, right? Whether it's mental, whether it's spiritual, you know, where you have to resource yourself. So that's what I do personally, right? And I love reading as well. I love reading in the sense of like one person had said reading is the best kind of like travel agency because you travel for free. At the same time, you travel for free, but you also get to hear other people's like opinion, thinking. It could be a novel or any other thing, but it opens up your mind. It also opens up your mind in the sense of like because I can be stuck in a way, and then I read a book that actually is gonna show me another angle, right, to a problem, right. So those are the things that I do, but always remind myself that you know what, this is a long journey. The fight is not over. I will die, but I'll give the torch to my kids. Not even to my kids, my nephews, to my nieces. It's a long fight. It could, you know. So that's the thing. And then the finally the other thing that I need to say is, hey man, enjoy life. You know, I always put that in my, you know, it's one of my mantra. It's like enjoy life because anytime it could be taken away. You know, we saw
Yeah.
DMX, you know, everybody, but you have to enjoy life every moment, whether it's your family, your people, the people you love, your friends. But it's always put that in your mind
Yeah.
because once you get into that negativity, it's in a spiral and you can't get out of it, and you can't even move on. So enjoy life, man.
Even if Doug Ford is driving you nuts, enjoy your life, okay? Because he's
Let's
driving
do that.
everybody nuts right now. For real.
Yeah.
Joe, same question. Unfairness, inequality, inequity. How do you persevere to achieve your goals, brother?
I've said this before, and I'm going to kind of touch on Kimmy and Andre's point. You know, Kimmy is like, we're all kind of messed up, and Andre's like, you take care of number one. And I think by improving myself every single day and doing, you know, whatever I decide to do, you know, I have my own routines and methods. but that allows me to become a better human being and a better parent. And the 3 children that I'm raising will be better, and they'll be offering society better options as human beings. And I think that, you know, we have to look in our own backyard sometimes, as opposed to just worrying about what everyone else is doing. A lot of times we get caught up in, you know, snitching on our neighbor for having one too many people over at COVID. But, you know, are you really wearing your mask over your nose every time, you know, like, and washing your hands? But I just, you know, I mind my own business. I focus on my own goals, and I do what I believe is best for me. And I highly recommend Wim Hof breathing and cold showers for those of you listening.
It's on my to-do list for this year, Joe.
Do it tomorrow, man. You won't regret it.
Okay.
Andre,
And for
back to
me,
you.
man,
How do you persevere with things not being fair, equal, or equitable?
I persevere by just focusing on my goals, you know. And once you focus on the goal, and the goal is always to have that self-control, to have that spiritual stamina. So when you have that spiritual, the goal is to have that spiritual stamina. So whenever the problem comes, you can react to it rather with emotion, you react to it with your wisdom, you know. So that's my whole thinking. So when something happens, instead of us, before it come out, you keep it inside and just be like, oh, you're thinking that split second, don't say it. Just calm down, because wisdom show you a lot. You've experienced being hurt before, you've experienced being disappointed before. So to be honest, the word disappointment doesn't change. It means it's the same. Someone make you feel bad. So you've endured a lot of that, right? So why this situation now, this COVID mask gonna let me lose my mind or react certain way rude? No. I have total control. If you come at me with a gun right now, brother, to be honest, I don't think I'm gonna want to pull a gun. It's like, what? I didn't do this, you know what I mean, at the end of the day. So until you can just take control of yourself, once you have control of your emotions and your spirit, then you know how to react to things. So that's my whole thing, man. Always yourself, fix yourself, and everything is good. Once you're good, together we're all better, you know what I mean? So
Yes,
that's
sir.
it, man.
We come to an end of another great session, you know, knowing that things are unfair, knowing that things aren't always equal, knowing things aren't always equitable. I just always try to look at the fact that, you know, things aren't as bad as I think they are. They're not always as good as I think they are. And I'm always in a position and a place where I'm able to learn and educate and try to get better. You know, so that's my way of kind of trying to persevere and achieving those goals. Once again, Joe, on behalf of Joe, Ghislaine, Andre, and Kimmy, this is and has been Join the Chat, the place where every single voice matters. Your opinions are important. You're empowered to express yourself in a free and open space for you to be able to speak and also to be heard. We are back in another 2 weeks. I am Renford, Mr. Bojangles. We are signing off for another session of Join the Chat. Check us out on YouTube at Join the Chat. Like, subscribe, share with others. I thank everyone for their comments today. Sherelle, SCB, all the people that were in the chat this afternoon, this night. It was great. It was great. Sade, Omar, it was great having y'all. And we'll see you next time on the other session of Join the Chat, where we have more great conversation. One love, y'all.
Power
Thank
to
you.
the people.
Bye.